Welcome to Encounter Culture, a podcast from the New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs. I'm your host and editor of El Palacio magazine, Emily Withnall.
And I'm Encounter Culture producer and editor, Andrea Klunder. Season 9 is off to a bang of a start with Jennifer Hasty from Wonders on Wheels and our new New Mexico State Poet Laureate, Manuel Gonzalez. Of course, we have more in the queue for 2026 after the holidays. But first, Emily, are you a winter holiday person?
I am. I love snow, and I'm very sad that we haven't had very much in Santa Fe so far. I grew up skiing at Sipapu Ski Lodge because my dad worked there when I was a kid, and so I'm very into the skiing, the sledding, all of the things.
Well, I am currently in Chicago, and you are more than welcome to have some of the snow that we have had. We have had record levels of snow already this season, and nothing against the holidays. I am just generally not a winter person at all.
Well, it does help that in New Mexico we have snow and sun at the same time. So, that's a good combination.
Excellent. We wanted to take this moment not just to talk about snow versus no snow versus sun versus sledding, to let you know about some important New Mexico culture dates and opportunities to connect.
As well as offer some listening suggestions for you in the coming weeks in case you haven't listened to every episode of Encounter Culture.
Of course, there will be links to everything we mention in the show notes, which can be found in the episode description in your app or at podcast.nmculture.org. You ready?
Yeah.
So first off, last season, we did an episode about the art of boot making.
That was the American Mystique of the Cowboy boot with Deana McGufin and Jess Márquez.
It is easily in my top 10 of all Encounter Culture episodes. I'm curious, Emily, if you were to take up learning a folk art, what would you choose?
I am so interested in so many things, but I haven't tried some of them. The ones I've actually tried, I've done a little bit of embroidery and I've done a little bit of beadwork. I'm not very good. So colcha embroidery would be really interesting to learn how to do, but also wood carving sounds fascinating and I've never tried that. So retablos or santos would be really cool to learn how to do.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that one. When I was in elementary school, I did learn how to whittle.
Yeah.
But we didn't whittle anything. We just basically whittled the bark off of
right.
and then painted them.
Yeah.
I have a performance background, so I am naturally drawn to storytelling, music, dance, anything like that. But I haven't really ever been that great at any making of things with my hands. So maybe I would try that.
Maybe some tin stamping.
Maybe. Of course, we're talking about the Boots episode and folk arts because applications for the next round of the Folk Art Apprenticeship Program through New Mexico Arts are open now through Friday, January 16 at 5 p.m. Mountain Time.
This program provides face-to-face, hands-on learning opportunities for masters and apprentices in practices diverse as instrument restoration, saddle making, embroidery, storytelling, music, dance, furniture making, weaving.
Anything you can imagine.
You can learn more at bit.ly/nmartsfolk. That's bit.ly/nmartsfolk.
In our season 9 preview, we talked about a brilliant idea that you, Emily, launched for El Palacio very recently.
Yeah. So starting in 2024 with the spring issue, I started inviting a few contributors from each issue to do a panel reading. And so at these readings, the contributors read a little bit from their article or essay in the issue, and then we have a conversation and take questions from the audience. And honestly, the Q&A part is the most interesting part because people come who are very engaged and ask really good questions. And sometimes the panelists even get excited about each other's work and start a conversation that way. So it's been really fun and a new way to engage people with the art, history, and culture of New Mexico.
I love it too, because even though here on the podcast, we're in a digital asynchronous medium where we're having the conversation and then folks are listening later, I think there's a desire for people to gather together and engage in culture in real time and space. And this really, it makes me think of like the coffee house feeling of the 1990s.
Yeah. Wow.
Feels very cozy. And
yes, yeah. I'm thinking about our conversation with Jennifer Hasty with the WOW Band, because she said everyone wants to be included in the history of New Mexico. And I think both the podcast and these readings that I've been doing with the magazine are a way to help people be included in that conversation.
That's awesome. You do have a couple of readings coming up centered around the winter issue, which is out right now.
Yes. Yeah. So the regular panel reading that I've been doing with every issue, that one is happening on Sunday, January 11th at 2 p.m. at Fusion, which is a big event space in Albuquerque. And this one will actually feature 4 contributors. So Santana Shorty has a short poem that she's going to be sharing. And then for the articles, the contributors who will also be a part of that reading are Laura Pascas, who many people in New Mexico know because she's been doing environmental reporting for a long time. Her article is about the excavation at Acoma Pueblo that Acoma Pueblo is leading to ensure that it's done in a culturally sensitive way. And then Mariah Gomez will be reading from her article. She's zeroing in on specifically on black and white photographs that Adelita Medina took during the Chicano movement in Las Vegas, New Mexico, with a specific focus on women and children's role in that movement, which isn't discussed as much. So I'm really excited about that. And then Rika Maestas has written a beautiful article about the 2 artists whose work is featured in the Palace of the Governors at the New Mexico History Museum as a part of Site Santa Fe's huge exhibition that kind of took over the whole city once within a time, it's called, and there's all these different artists. And so Rika really explores the ways that these artists in the Palace of the Governors are kind of disrupting New Mexico history or pushing back on narratives that have kind of become entrenched and looking at Indigenous and Black perspectives of New Mexican history.
All of that sounds awesome, and I'm jealous that I will not be there.
Yeah. And then we're going to have a special, it's less of a reading and more of a plática between Mariah Gomez and Adelita Medina, whose photography she discusses in her article. And we're going to actually take that to Las Vegas, New Mexico, because that's what the article focuses on, is the activism that was happening in the 1970s on the New Mexico Highlands University campus. I'm actually a graduate of New Mexico Highlands University. So is Mariah Gomez. We were actually in the same English classes together in the early 2000s. And so it's very exciting. It's going to be very Las Vegas focused. And we're going to be holding that on Sunday, February 22nd at 2 p.m. at Donnelly Library at New Mexico Highlands University. And it's a part of the library's Archives to Action series that is very popular in the community there.
So for the January reading at Fusion in Albuquerque, our listeners can go to bit.ly/LPAL-JAN2026. That's bit.ly/LPAL-JAN for January 2026. And then for the February reading, the link is not yet active at this moment. Things are happening fast in real time over here. But you can follow El Palacio on Instagram or Facebook, and the details will be posted there when we have them.
Yes, and I do want to mention that in the spring we will have a new website, and so we will have a more streamlined process for events in the future.
Okay, last but not least, Since I did mention that I am not a winter person, I'm personally already looking forward to spring. And big news for dinosaur, science, and natural history buffs everywhere.
The New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science, which has been closed for renovations, is gearing up for reopening, slated for March 2026.
The word on the street is that there will be an expanded lobby and gift shop and a new traveling exhibition on view when it opens called Animal Armor: The Evolution of Armor in Dinosaurs and Prehistoric Animals.
Yes. And for anyone who did not catch the Ancient Life exhibition before the museum closed for renovations, I highly recommend that you go see it. It's an excellent overview of ancient life in New Mexico pre-dinosaur. And the reopening will be an excellent time to go see it if you missed it or if you want to see it again. There's a lot to take in. And for a sneak peek of that exhibition, you can read the incredible article by Tamara in the spring 2025 issue of El Palacio and listen to our episode on encounter culture called Time Travel: From Giant Millipedes to Modern Landscapes with New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science from Season 8. We also have another episode from Season 5 called Big, Toothy, and Conveniently Dead: Why We Are Obsessed with Dinosaurs, featuring Anthony Fiorillo, who is the director of the museum.
And that one is one of my all-time favorite encounter culture titles for an episode.
Yes.
It was a direct quote from Tony.
Yes, Big, Toothy, and Conveniently Dead.
And if you haven't seen it yet, you can preview the Ancient Life exhibition hall as it was being built before it was unveiled to the public with our exclusive walkthrough featuring paleontologist Spencer Lucas and exhibition designer Matt Selesky on our YouTube channel at New Mexico Culture.
And of course, we're excited to share the rest of the Season 9 episodes starting in January. So those will come out January 14th, I think, is our next date. Is that correct, Andrea?
That's the plan.
Okay. And so the upcoming episodes will cover conversations about the Cañón de Carnue land grant archaeological excavation, which is a super interesting episode. And I learned a lot of new things about New Mexican history I did not know. The newly donated Thomas Malarkey photos depicting 1930s Gallup, New Mexico that are now housed in the Palace of the Governor's Photo Archive. And so David Correa, who wrote an incredible article about the Gallup Coal Wars in the fall issue in 2025, we had a conversation about those photos because they're a fascinating look at that time period and Malarkey as a photographer. And then we'll also have a conversation with Nuevo Mexicano heritage arts educators about their role in helping preserve New Mexican arts, and a conversation with some accordion players who are a part of the New Mexico Arts Folk Arts Apprenticeship Program.
And with that, just a quick reminder to check the show notes for links to your recommended encounter culture playlist, and just a handful of the ways that you can be a part of New Mexican culture this year.
Thank you to all of our guests, past, present, and future, and thank you for listening.
Wishing you a happy holiday season.